Today, we discuss When I Consider How My Light Is Spent, or On His Blindness by John Milton, but after a quick reading, let's discuss it. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, through my soul more bent, to serve therewith my Maker, and present my true account, lest he return chide. Doth God exact day, labor, light denied? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. That murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, and post over land and ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait. Interesting story behind this one. I don't know if you looked up much about it. But,
totally cheated and did. Yep. Totally cheated and looked up about him.
Okay. Because I think this is important to know, at least for me, contextually, kind of know why he wrote this. That we don't know the exact year he wrote it. We do know that by 1652, he had gone completely blind. Like the writer of this was blind in 52. Actually, it was a rough year. His wife passed away. His only son passed away. Not exactly happy times. So he can't read, can't write anymore. And that was kind of like his thing. He's a writer. And he writes this poem, they speculate maybe 3 years later, sometime in the mid-50s, about your talent and how does that best serve.
And are you defined by your talent? For me, is really kind of what I got out of it. And I think that it's important to a lot of people. My job or my thing, whatever is my it, defines who I am. And are you still yourself if you lose that, right?
I mean, how many people do you see that lose their job and they just fall into complete despair? Like they're like, I'm no longer the person I thought I was, right? And sometimes it's like, it's weeks, months, if ever. Like they find a hard time picking up their identity because they're so tied up with it. And, you know, to the point of this poem, obviously Milton takes it in a very religious route, right? Like if we just look at this opening line here, when I consider how my light is spent, obviously light representing heavenly powers and such, right? Ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent, and you'll notice that the word talent is capitalized, or at least in the version that I have here, right? My talent, which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent, right? And I guess with Milton, I mean, writer of Paradise Lost, right? Like you kind of can easily go to the biblical route of things. So I assume when you looked it up, obviously the word talent, capital T, had to probably bring something up specific from the Bible.
No, I actually didn't look that word up because my version doesn't have it capitalized. So I missed that whole part. Yeah. The website that I have it on does not have that capitalized. So I don't know if that's a translation error or not. That's interesting.
Okay, it could be a translation error on my part, but let's put it this way, talent, and I'll put up the Greek translation of it and such. Very biblical word because particularly, that was kind of hard to say, we have a particular... is it a parable? I think it's a parable. The parable of talent. I think it's like in 2 different of the canonical books, essentially. But basically, the master is going away, so he trusts his servants with the goods, right? Like that makes sense, right? Like it's very even outside of religion. The boss leaves and isn't watching and micromanaging you. He's expecting you to do your work while you're at your job.
Right. Yeah.
And the boss returns. 2 of them nailed it. Did a great job. They're rewarded. One was kind of lazy, didn't even invest it in some really like low effort, like bank investment type stuff. Nothing, right? So he doesn't get rewarded. In fact, he's kind of, I don't know, kind of like the no soup for you moment, if you will, of the parable.
I love that.
But it's meant to say like, okay, in the context of the Bible, it's like God gives you these gifts, talents, and he expects you to use them to better mankind. And I think that's very interesting. Even if you're not religious, I think there's an element to that because why? Because I've always wondered about this concept of why do we feel so good? Because I'm not and altruist when we help others, when we are good at something. Like there's something that is releasing those dopamine, actual chemical reactions in our brain. And it's just so crazy to think about, why is that there?
I also took another way as well of, what if Milton was thinking to himself, did I not use my talent to glorify God? Did I not use my talent well enough? And this is my punishment. Is this my burden that he's taken my talent from me? That's, I think, something that is very difficult people to swallow, because I think a lot of people go down that, I don't think, poor old me route, but I mean, it's a logical way to go down of, I have this ability and I used it perhaps wrongly, and now I'm being punished for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, divine disappointment, like that's a thing, right? Particularly you have various different ways of how people view grace, religion, right? Like in terms of like, it's here, it's given to me, it's the only way I'm going to get to heaven. And there's people that believe their acts are part of that story, right? Part of that, I don't want to say like antinomianism, like where you can just take it for granted, but like that idea that you should want to be good to use your talents and help others. Even without religion, I feel like that's like a thing for a lot of people. People want to be rewarded. They want to be part of the group. They want to, even me as like an I lose energy when I'm around others. Introvert. I'm introverted. As an introvert, I still want to be recognized, if that makes sense, and not just for the pure selfish joy of being a leader, but it's like that. I think the argument is that you fit into a group. Like human species are traditionally very cooperative, that your body is rewarding you for working with others. And even without religion, you have this reward of wanting to do good and use yourself to help a community in a sense.
Yeah. And I think that doing good can come in many forms. I kind of thought of Christmas Carol as I was reading this as well, of Scrooge. He thinks that, his money defines him. So if you lost all your money, could he still be a terrible person? Yes. If you have all your money, can you still be a good person? Yes. And that's what I kind of took away from the poem, is that even if you don't have your talent, you could still do good. And Milton can still serve God, not in the same way, but he still can. And I think it's that can-do attitude is, I think that Milton is kind of, he's maybe lived in despair for these last few years, and he's lifting himself up and saying, I may not be able to see anymore, but it doesn't mean that I can't keep trying.
Yeah. And I think when we look at the poem very specifically, there's these lines that say, to serve wherewith my maker and present my true account. And I guess one of the things that you just touched on previously, the true account, like that's like that report. Are you attempting to be a good person? Are you doing the best that you can? Because I think to the next line, when it says, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Like God's, if we're looking at a God out there, a perfect God that doesn't need anything because everything's perfect, he doesn't need us to use our talents. The talents are for us in some ways, right? Like a way for us to try to be better people with others and such. That our true account, right? Like that reconciling of spiritual good energy, the mojo that you put out there, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that, whether you believe in God or not, the fact that if there is a God, he doesn't need us. And if there isn't a God, nobody needs us, right? These are things you should be doing anyways, right? So it's kind of like both sides of the argument. You can see a positive action in wanting to use your talents to improve and help others the way that you can. And then to the last point that you touched on, you said so much so quick there, the fact that it's not necessarily judged by output, right? It's judged almost by your, whether you want to call it your your good faith, right? Like those that wait, right? Like that can still be enough for some people.
It's not how much you do, it's that you're doing. That's, I think, that a key takeaway is, it isn't, I gave millions of dollars away. If you're a millionaire, okay, but it's almost like the homeless guy that has nothing, and they do those like secret videos, and the guy walks up and he's like, "Hey, I haven't eaten today." And he's like, "Oh, okay, here, He's like, "Well, you don't have anything either." He goes, "Yeah, but we got it, if you have $1 and you give 50 cents away, I think that's a lot more important than if you have millions and you give $100 away." It's just, it's all in perspective.
Do you remember being in college? Like, I guess I should ask this more of a question. When you were in college, did you ever have one of those group assignments where it's you and 3 or 4 or 5 other people? You guys had to accomplish something together, and typically you had to split up the work to accomplish, and the pieces had to come together to accomplish something.
Yes.
And I guess this is my question. Did you ever feel like that guy's not doing as much as the others? Like, there's always one person that was, I'm sorry, lazy or not as competent. Like, for whatever reason, his output or her output was not as much as everyone else's. And in the moment of college, okay, going back to our years, did you judge that person and being like, that guy's not pulling his weight?
100%. 100%. I was very angry at that because I thought that we should all equally be working on this.
Okay, now let's take it just in the context of this poem, right? In this sonnet here. Should we judge everyone by equal effort? Or the way I look at it now, and I think I learned this lesson, again, this is my opinion, feel free to disagree. I learned this lesson way too late in life. I don't know if I want exact equal output from everyone. Like, that guy over there, he might be terrible and I might think he's lazy, or I might think he's not as competent as others, right? Personal opinion. Like, that's the thing. We are not all equal in that regard in terms of our talents. I don't want to put him in charge. I don't want him to have the responsibility to deliver the most complicated, let's say we're doing like a coding assignment. I went to school for computer science. I am not putting him in charge of the most important guts thing there. However, I have learned later in life, there's a lot to even beyond programming in terms of like the UI design, how things look, the ability to coordinate and make sure everybody's bringing their pieces together. There are talents beyond just the technical assignment that we are learning in class that we could pull out from that person. I don't want to put him in charge of some of those like really key technical things. I want him to play that role of maybe coordinating and bringing people together. That I shouldn't be judging people by their output, but by their intent, their faithfulness, their desire to be a part of something bigger. A lot of nuances to that statement, but I guess my point being, I don't think it's everybody does equally 1/6 piece of the pie. I think it's everybody brings different flavors and ingredients to make the pie is, I guess, kind of the argument I'm making.
100% agree. Yes. The problem with our younger selves is I think we had good intentions of, hey, everybody's going to pull their weight and do it equally. But what are they equally going to do is a question that we failed to ask. And maybe that was part of the assignment that we failed as young students, because if you have this whatever product you're supposed to create, kind of to your point, and everybody gets their assignment, but the one person that's slacking is because they don't know how to do that. I mean, you were in a band, right? And if they were like, hey, Una, you're going to play the drums, and you're like, okay, like you're not going to say no and would disappoint your group, and you're the bass player and you don't know how to play the drums, and it looks like you slacked off or didn't pull your weight, and now everybody's angry at you because everybody does, I think, have their special talent. Everybody has their thing that maybe they're good at. You have to find it, and that's tough.
Mm-hmm. But I think we're agreeing that there's like a helper's high to using something that you're good at to further the cause of something bigger than us, right? Like, if we somehow admit, whether it's God, whether it's religion, whether it's something else, that there is something bigger than us and we can contribute to move that forward, there's generally a positive helper's high, a chemical, oxytocin, dopamine hit that we get to participate and sometimes feel very accomplished in that, as opposed to when we're stuck just within ourselves and our own personal goals. It's not to say this is 100% of what we want to be, but I think there is a story there, regardless of whether your life views align with Milton or not, I would say.
I'm going to throw you on the spot here. Do you think in our early days that was you? I was very, very ignorant and struggled with poems and poetry. and you helped me tremendously along the way. Do you think that was your helper's high? And I'm sure from your wife's perspective or viewers' perspectives, I was not pulling my weight.
That's a tough question because it really just depends on, because we've talked about this before when we were recording. There's times where it's like we need a teacher and we need a student for just like how the dialogue, like a platonic dialogue, right? Someone to teach, so that way we can draw out the questions that we want to cover. And now we tend to be a little bit more explorative. So I don't know if that's a totally fair question, but I also think you thought you were more of the guy not pulling his weight than I thought you were. We would not be doing this channel for as long as we have if I didn't think you were incredibly intelligent and talented.
Aww.
I use the T word at what you do on this channel. And I'm glad. I don't know if you felt insecure or if you thought I was being, or if I was looking down at you at all, but I'm glad we've stuck through to create like what is ultimately a very rewarding project, hopefully helping other people out there watching right now.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a hard time. I think that a lot of it is personal growth. For me, poetry, and in particular like this one, because I know a lot of students have to read this as required reading in school, I would have been angry about it, or I would, it would have been forced reading, so I wouldn't have enjoyed it. Maybe, me personally, some students could, because this speaks to you. You are in touch with those emotions that bring out those ideas that Milton was trying to get to you. It touches your soul. For me, it didn't happen that way. And I don't know if that's just biological or nurturing versus nature versus nurture. But as a middle-aged man, I feel like I finally get it. And that is the purpose. And I think that's okay. It just comes later to some of us.
So much like this poem, where we had a faithful patience and quiet endurance, you have come full circle and have now embraced the role of poetry in your life. Slow clap for that, audience. Leave us a little halo or whatever you feel best represents your talent icon to help the ever-hungry algorithm know that you enjoyed today's talk if you don't know what to say. Otherwise, let us know in the comments what you thought about this poem. It's a very interesting poem, and I'm hoping that this conversation maybe brought out some different angles for you to think about. So my name's been Una. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Peace.
Peace.